I'll tell you a few things about my 28% scale bird dog. Power plant is a Sato FG57T. It's a twin-cylinder opposed twin, 4-cycle gasoline engine, 57 cc's. The cowl the whole cowl is removable, but I've built in scale access doors as per the full-size airplane that are accessible by removing a pair of spring pins. And then the cowl opens up and provides access to the engine, the choke, the ignition switch, and the fill fitting for the pneumatic disc brakes. Items such as the steps for access to the fuel tanks on the full-size airplane. There's over 4,000 simulated rivets, all done with RC56 canopy glue using a syringe. In areas where there are threaded fasteners on the full-size airplane, I have screw heads like around the window frame. On the back part of the airplane there are more patches. There's a patch here simulated where the antenna was mounted on the military version of this airplane. And then there's a couple of insulated posts here for the wire antenna that was on the airplane, which is obviously no longer on the full-size airplane, civilian version. On the control surfaces, all the corrugations are simulated with plastic extrusions that I cut the size and glued on one at a time, which was quite an ordeal. And there's an antenna on the fin. Again, you know, nav light and trim tab on the elevator. Linkage is on the bottom. And the tail wheel leaf spring is made up of spring steel strip stock that I cut the length, formed, and assembled together with the banding clip as per the full size. The main landing gear is made out of 4130 steel, heat treated. The airplane's outfitted with Robart pneumatic disc brakes, which are operated with air pressure that's supplied through the scale brake lines. It's aluminum tubing in this case, but I attach those to the brake system, so the air is supplied down that tube, so I don't have a separate non-scale piece of rubber tubing going down there. The cabin door is built and installed for the full size. Hinges are offset. I'll show you a detail here. There's a bell crank that is attached to a shaft that goes into the cabin, which on the inside of the cabin there's a handle. When you rotate that handle, this bell crank rotates and that pulls the hinge pins just like the full size, and so you can jettison the door. For normal operation, the door handle is what opens the door. You rotate the handle about 45 degrees, and then that releases the door and the window. The window is held up underneath part of the wing there, and the door swings like that. Now if I wanted to jettison the door, all we need to do is rotate that handle on the inside of the cabin and the entire door would come off. On the full-size airplane, you might want to jettison the door if it was a situation where you need to bail out. This was a military airplane, so they would certainly outfit it for such a contingency. But basically, you wouldn't be able to open this door by just pushing it open in the airstream in order to get out of the airplane. So in that situation, you would grab the handle in the cabin and rotate it. That would pull out the hinge pins and the entire door would drop away. On the bottom of the cowl, we have two scale exhaust stacks. They're functional. Got the basically the exhaust tubes that are coming out of the engines are routed to those stacks. There's also 3 dump tubes that are in the center bottom of the cowl. Those are per scale, and one of those tubes is the crankcase breather for the Sato 4-cycle engine. Another one of the tubes is the fuel tank overflow, and a third tube is just a dummy. On the top of the cabin, on this panel up here, there's on the military version of the airplane there were some antennas mounted here and here. There are a pair of patches. A civilian addition to the airplane is the Garmin navigation system. This is the satellite antenna for that. And that includes the Garmin marking, which I simulated by taking a photograph of the full-size airplane and reducing it, and then making a decal. Got simulated fuel fittings. All the hinge locations are all scale, simulated in size. It turns out these are Dubrow hinges, which I have, the ends of each of these are functional. Everything in between the two Dubrow hinges is just simulated with pieces of aluminum tubing that were cut to length and slid over the hinge, an extended hinge pin. The airplane also features functioning nav lights. They're RAM nav lights. And the landing lights become functional when the flaps are deployed, and those are also from RAM. On the tip, there's this clear plastic piece, so on the full-size airplane, the pilot can see the lights on at nighttime. I simulated that on the model as well. The cabin interior is, the instruments are all from iFly tailies. Many of the instrument faces I had to replace because the instruments in the full-size airplane are military versions from the early 1950s. So things such as the artificial horizon and horizontal situation indicator, those faces are not at all similar to modern instruments, which is what you would get for the most part from iFly tailies. So I photographed a lot of the instruments in Scott Loepkey's airplane, reduced the photographs to the appropriate size to make new faces for the instruments in here. So pretty much the panel in the airplane replicates 100% what's in the full-size airplane. The 4-point safety harnesses in here are from iFly tailies, and in the case of the pilot, that's actually what keeps him in the pilot seat, is the safety harness. For attaching the wing struts, I had to have access underneath the floorboards in the cabin, so the pilot comes out by removing the seat, by actually operating the latch on the safety harness and removing the harness, then he comes right out of the seat. The pilot seat is mounted on rails as per the full-size airplane, and it slides back and forth. And if you want to move the pilot seat, you just slide it forward until the forward door rails slide off the track, and then slide the seat back to the aft one, slide off the back end of the track, and then that seat comes out. And then the entire floorboard comes out. It's just held in place with 4 magnets. At that point, you have access to the wing struts. My wife Debbie did all the upholstery work. She did the upholstery on the pilot seat as well as the upholstery work on the rear passenger seat and the side panels in the cabin. Okay, so that's my version of Scott Loepkey's full-size L-19 Bird Dog. It was a very enjoyable project. Glad it's done.